All right. Okay, guys, welcome to the Crush Core Real Estate Hour. I'm your host, Dean Harris. I've got Douglas Skipworth with me. How are you?
Doing great. Thank
Good.
you. Nice to see everybody.
Douglas is our CEO, leader. You probably caught him a few weeks ago on Meet Douglas Skipworth Day.
Yeah, that was fun.
Great, yeah.
That's right.
And then last week, we talked about hard money, how to use it, tools, or
It's
reasons
great. It's a
why
tool. Yeah,
use
it's
it.
an awesome tool, man. It's so many ways to use it. We saw a guy flipping an apartment complex, going to help do a deal next week. So
Lots of different ways to use that.
Lots of different ways, man. It's so great.
That show is on YouTube and Facebook, and then Spotify, wherever else you catch your podcast. So go check that out today if you've got any questions or interest in hard money and how to use it. Today, well, if you have any questions to dean@crushcore.com. You can email me anything about last week's show or today. Today we're going to talk about top mistakes out-of-state investors make here in Memphis.
Yes,
This is a good one.
It is a good one.
And I, we did this a couple of years ago, so this is not for the information today will be fresh. It will be new. And I'm excited to kind of get into some of this because a lot of questions from investors that come to me are, what should I not do? Like, there's a lot of things that they ask, but there's a whole bunch of things that even more that they say, what should I not do? Where should I not go? Who should I not work with? Good. And so on. So let's dive right into top mistakes out-of-state investors make. To me, the first thing that I always think of is choosing the wrong market.
Yes.
And there are so many, not so many, there are several cities our size that are good markets to go in, but I tell you what, there's also a bunch of areas that are not. So to me, doing the research on the front end of where do you want to go and where you want to be is almost, to me, the most important first step. Because you could do everything right from number 2 on, and if you chose the wrong market, then I don't think any of it matters.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it assumes people have set a goal and know why they're doing it, what they're trying to accomplish. So once they do, it's kind of like calling a travel agent. Like when you call a travel agent, the travel agent, maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe people don't call. They don't call travel agents. Those two things are, neither of those exist anymore, phones or travel agents. Right. But you call a travel agent, the travel agent doesn't say, do you want to take a trip?
Right.
They know you want to take a trip. So they're like, where do you want to go? What are you looking for? What market do you want to be in? Do you want to go to the beach or the mountains? And that's what you're here. Do you want cash flow? Do you want appreciation? Do you want a little bit of both? Where's the best place for you to accomplish your goals?
That's right.
That's what the travel agent is saying. That's what the agent is saying. And the real estate agent in this case, who's most likely helping somebody find property.
And if you call any market and you ask a local agent if their market's a good one, they're 100% going to tell you yes.
If you call up Vail, Colorado, they've got the best ski mountain in the world. If you call up the panhandle of Florida, they've got the best white sand beaches in the world. Everybody's got the best. Every barber says you need a haircut.
Yeah, that's right. Same thing. Yes. Every lawn guy thinks your yard needs to be cut. I think distinguishing between what you said there, what are your goals and what are you looking for? If you said, hey, I'm a flipper and that's all I do, period, this might not be the market for you, West Coast or any Nashville or somewhere else that is strong for flipping might be. I'm not saying you can't flip in Memphis, but our main thing is what?
Long-term rentals.
Long-term rentals.
And if long-term, and that's where I was also thinking with this, it's like you want to go, depending on what you want to do, you want to go where the ecosystem is built to support that, right? So this is, we were talking earlier. If you want to be in the film or entertainment industry, where do you go? LA. Yeah. If you want to be in the high finance place, where do you go?
Wall Street.
Yes. Yeah. And so if you want to be in high tech, you go to Silicon Valley. So it's like, if you want to be in long-term rental market, you want to go to a place like Memphis where you've got renters, you've got inventory for houses, you've got real estate agents who can help you find it, property management companies that can support you, contractors that are used to it, banks that are used to financing those,
the right
insurance
kind of
agents, everything that supports short-term rentals, long-term rentals, fix and flips, what market you want to be in. Memphis is a great long-term buy and hold rental market because it supports that. There are others like that, but this is a really great one.
I think of the, I won't get into other markets because we sell here, but there are other markets that are decent. But I will tell you, of that pool of other decent markets for cash flow, that I think ours is the best.
Yes.
I mean, you look at Kansas City, Louisville, some other places that people talk about. I definitely think our numbers and our community support it better for what you just said.
Absolutely.
There's so many people here that their jobs are centered around supporting investors in what they do.
Correct.
There's been so many, careers or jobs or companies that have spawned off from, this rental market that we have here. It's unbelievable. So that we do support it here. You can find. That's why I was on a call yesterday with a guy, and he kept asking me, "Well, can you refer me to a contractor?" I'd already said 10 times I have everybody to refer you, but he needed that confirmation. Well, a contractor. I was like, "Yes, we have several. I can get you insurance." Yep, got a couple. Everything that he named. Yep, got a few.
Of course,
because we're doing it every day, and we have it every day, and there's people around here that are building their whole lives around just supporting investors. They're not even investors themselves. Their companies are
they're selling,
set up.
They're selling the picks and the axes and the jeans and the pans to the gold, the prospectors.
Yeah.
So yes, there are people who are set up to do that, and we've just got a great system for that. Great community to do that.
So picking your market is going to be extremely important.
Yes.
If you have questions about our market, I'm happy to answer them, and I can even kind of compare and contrast with some other markets too. So that choosing the wrong market is one of the mistakes. This is the big one. I mean, to me, on Bigger Pockets and everywhere I go, this next one's trusting the wrong property source.
Yeah, and I think the step in between those two, we don't have to talk much about it, is selecting the property type and the class. Do you want multifamily, single family? Do you want Class A, Class C?
Yeah.
Again, it gets a little bit into your goals and appreciation and cash flow, but selecting that is very important.
Extremely.
So
as part of choosing the market, wherever you go.
As part of choosing the market. So then you get into, okay, I've chosen my market. I know what kind of property type and class I want. Yeah. How do I find it?
Man, there's a million ways. Wholesalers, agents, current investors, property management companies,
DIY, Zillow type, just trying to kick into
clubs, or groups, RIAs or whatever,
Facebook groups, whatever.
There's a million ways. Facebook is growing.
Yeah,
is a place to find rentals. So yeah, Facebook too.
I mean, I think as an investor, you are, the term I like to use is sourcing property.
Yes.
You're sourcing it and trying to, however you can, whether it's an agent, a tax sale, is it an owner, whoever has access to the owner of the property.
Yes.
In my experience, I think part of what we're saying in this is you're finding your sources. You need a trusted source. You need somebody, especially if you're working with an agent, which is what I worked with an agent, still help. I would have agents help me because that's what they're paid to do. I use an insurance agent. You can go and try and do it all on your own, but man, let the experts do that. So it's like find an expert who owns property, who's focused on investment property, who's in this for the long term and building a strategic partnership, as opposed to someone who's just trying to make a fee, sell this deal, and then they're gone. You can't find them.
So I want to discuss this just for a second and the reasons why, to me, this is one of the most important things and how and why you don't go to certain people. If I'm an investor and I'm out of state, there's a difference. You might think a source is a source because all they did is hand you the property, right? Like you might look at it and say,
that's a source.
That's a
quote source.
But to go behind that a little bit, the curtain a little bit, and figure out who sent it to you and why and what they're going to communicate with you is what sets me, I believe, and others in our community apart from some others. And now wholesalers to me are a necessary tool.
They're a tool.
For everyone.
For sure.
That's going to invest.
They work really, really hard to get their deals.
They do work really hard. Now, I do think there is an advantage in going through me to them. And let me explain that. I can filter out the nonsense and BS, so to speak, from a wholesaler and translate that to you. Or don't even give you that, right? That property. So the most common thing that we see from wholesalers is, hey, the rehab's $8,000, and we get out there and it's 28 grand. So there are guys that have reputations for that. I know those. If you're reaching out to them on your own, you might not know that. Here's the other thing. I have a fiduciary responsibility to all of my clients. I'm a licensed real estate agent. We sell a lot of houses every month. I'm not about to jeopardize my career over one transaction or two or 10 or whatever.
No, yeah.
So the communication from me to you as a client is backed by my real estate license, backed by a code of ethics, and backed by my responsibility to you as a client.
That is great.
A wholesaler has none of that. There's no governing body. There's no broker, a sense, and to manage him. There's no.
Even a licensed real estate agent is different than a realtor.
Yes.
A realtor is a member of the National Association of Realtors, as well as a member of the local board in Memphis Area Association of Realtors.
Yeah.
And those realtors abide by code of ethics. Real estate agents don't.
No.
And all they have is a license.
Yes.
And you and I know all that is taking a test.
Yes.
Taking a class and taking a test.
Yep.
And then wholesalers don't even have a license.
No.
So not saying wholesalers are bad, but just saying they are able to operate in areas that realtors aren't. Realtors have the code of ethics, and that is a huge distinguishing factor, as well as I would say a competitive advantage, because that's who you want to work with.
Yeah.
If you're in this for the long term, if you're trying to get in, lose some money, and get out,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
And I tell you, not every wholesaler is bad.
No,
not everyone's
no.
going to lead you the wrong way. I will tell you, more are going to than not. This is just the reality of the wholesale world. They are only focused on transaction, sell, close, get paid. That's it.
Generalizations and stereotypes are usually there for a reason.
Yes.
So there are exceptions.
And I don't want to make this a bash a wholesaler session, but what I am trying to tell you is, like, you're venturing off into some sharky waters.
Yeah. Well, and also what I do want to reiterate is, like, you just always got to be careful taking advice from someone, or in this case, sourcing a property, but taking advice from somebody who's hadn't been there, done that. So, like, if you go in to your stockbroker, you want that stockbroker to be rich, and own a lot of stock
from the
and
stock
you want
market.
your doctor to be healthy, not what's wrong with you today. It's you want to go to an expert who practices what they preach.
Yes.
So that's the biggest thing I would say, is vet the person or your source as to how many, if you're in the long-term rental business, how many rentals have they owned? How many do they own? What's their experience doing that? Because that's exactly what you would do with, another analogy, a car salesman who doesn't drive the car that they're selling.
Yeah. Or never has, or whatever.
Like,
it makes no sense whatsoever.
They don't believe in it. So
now,
it's
to go to part 2 of that same topic.
Yes.
You've now decided that, okay, maybe a wholesaler is not the way to go. Let's go with an agent.
Okay.
So I would even break that down even further. If you're going to use a realtor or a real estate agent or whoever's involved here with a license, I would break it down even further. You need to ask that agent, do they own rentals? Or are they doing what you're doing? Are you going to come in here and flip properties, and you want to do 3 a month and flip or whatever? You need to find an agent that's going to source properties. They might not have to do 3 a month with you, but has flipped and is currently flipping.
And is representing other investors who are flipping.
Same way with the rentals. Ask them how many they own, right? Like,
how many do they own? How many do they help other people buy and sell every month? Is this something they're just doing for you because it's a transaction, or is this something they make a business out of?
All right, and let me. This is part of our podcast, and what we do is, like, we're brutally honest, and I'll tell you mine. In 2010, I started selling this product, right?
Yes.
2011 or 12, I came over here and started selling this product. So, in 2015, I started to buy them. Okay.
Yes.
So in 2016, my conversations, I could tell right away, began to change with investors. Now, in 2012 to 2016, I wasn't dishonest or misleading anybody, but I didn't have the education and the experience to really dive deep with an investor and discuss it. I could tell you about the market. I could tell you it was a good house and a rental and all the other stuff.
And how to buy. A lot of people need that hand holding.
But when you go to phase 2 of that conversation is where I would try to end it and couldn't get into it because I didn't know. Now, I have enough experience with owning my own and selling the numbers that we've sold, but owning my own to have those conversations just like you can with any client. I can tell you how many mistakes I've made. They've been awful. They've been terrible, right?
Yep.
I've lived and learned, and that's what I share with my clients. So keep that in mind as you're vetting and going through the process of finding a source. Maybe you decide that wholesalers are not it. You want to go with a licensed person. Great. Let's make sure that licensed person has rental properties if you're buying rentals.
You're buying rentals.
And I don't mean one or two either, by the way. I'm talking like 10 plus to me is, hey, you've got some legit experience. You've been through, the storms and the bad days and the good days. Let's talk about those. That's the first thing investors like to hear from me, by the way. Yeah. Mistakes.
Yep, right.
They don't want to hear how great it is.
I mean, you'll hear anybody, any successful person will talk about how much they learn from falling down.
Yeah,
not from
and try to help you
getting
prevent
back
doing
up.
That. That's exactly
and trying
right.
To make the same mistake twice.
So here we are. You have chosen Memphis.
Yes.
You've decided maybe wholesalers aren't the way to go. I'm going to go with a licensed agent, and lucky us, you chose Dean, right? So now we're going to get you into the program and giving you properties and ideas and advice on where to go and where to buy. The next thing is your vendor partners, your business partners, your banking partners specifically would be along kind of 1A would be management in there. But I definitely think your banking needs to go before the management because, if you're not buying with the bank, you're not managing. So to me, it's the first thing is let's get our banking in order. What are some of the things or mistakes that you think out of town investors make when it comes to like their banking decisions?
Yeah, and I can't remember if we talked about this before, but my mind is so simple that I have to frame things in buckets, and so it's like deals, financing, and management. So it's like, hey, you already talked about how you're going to get deals.
Yep.
Now we're talking about how you're financing those deals. We talked a lot last week about the different ways to finance them.
Yep.
And picking the right bank partner. I mean, I feel like we're always saying this. Picking the right financing partner is crucial. Again, you want to have several tools, but I have found specifically working with commercial banks because they're the cheapest money. I have found that they can accelerate your business or they can stunt the growth of your business because they can do things that prevent you from going where you want to go, or they can kind of give you the boost you need.
Huge part of your business. I think you know where I'm about to say is mine changed dramatically.
Yeah.
Whenever I got with the right banking partner, my business went from here to quick.
And it can be, sometimes it can be the right institution. More often, my experience is it's the actual person, the loan officer.
Because a bank is a loan committee. If you're the loan officer, I'm going to come in here and say, hey, Douglas, I'd like to borrow $200,000, and this is the reasons why. Most of the time, the guy right there can't say, sure, here's your $200,000. It's in your bank right now. He has to take you and your plan to loan committee once a week.
And he's got to believe in you and sell it.
And he's got to believe in you and sell it. So if you don't, if you've partnered up with someone that's not a decent salesperson, or doesn't really believe in what you're doing, you might get the first loan. I doubt you're going to get a bunch of them because he just doesn't. That person is not going to be.
We've had that experience multiple times over with nice people who aren't. They're not on your side. At the end of the day, they're not on your side.
It
because
more
they
difficult
don't they don't have a sense of urgency. They don't have a sense of trying to go to bat for you. And then there are others who, man, they change the world for you.
Yes.
Because they believe in you. They believe in themselves.
Yep.
They believe in what you're doing and allow you to change the world.
Yeah.
And my gratitude for the people who have helped me along the way increase And especially for those people, as you see, the ones who are so bad.
Oh my gosh, the difference between a bad one and a good one is night and day. I mean, I'm not trying to over exaggerate this, I'm really not. It is night and day difference in your rental business if you have a good, solid, enthusiastic, supportive banker, or if you just have a guy that works at the dang bank.
Yep. You're right. There's no doubt about it.
The guy that works at the bank might get you a loan, right? But he's not going to be a partner of yours and advise. I mean, he's just not enthusiastic. You just have to be able to sense that and pick it up, right? Yeah, and you can be able to tell, like, hey, send me your stuff. Well, I'll get to it. Or, hey, I need this, this, and this, and this, and I'm going to go to bat for you because I believe in your business plan. I had to tell my whole business plan to our banker. Hell, the owner of the bank, I had to tell the whole thing. They wanted to hear the whole thing, and when they did,
their eyes lit up.
I want to be a part of this.
And they wanted to back you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
So knowing your and by the way, these things go in order: choosing your market, knowing your property source, and then getting with the right banking partners. If you've told them all these two things beforehand, your source and your management or whatever, they know you got a plan. They know that there's a plan. They know that you have at least a strategy in place. Versus how many times do you hear the guy sitting at the dinner table? Man, I'd love to invest in real estate. I've been looking into that since 2010. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You got to go in and know and have a plan and be able to translate that to your banker so they can go to bat for you.
Because you said the key word, plan, because what the bank, only thing they care about is getting paid back
monthly. And
you can't pay them back without a plan.
No.
A plan to do that.
So choosing your proper bank is right. We've got a couple of guys that we refer out for local bankers here. I also want to bring this up. Using your local bank at home in California or wherever for a line of credit and then refi here is also the same thing as having a good banker. I can pretty much get any bank to refi here if you own it with cash. Yeah. Which if you're using your line of credit, you own it outright. We can get any banker to do that. So if you've got a really strong local banker wherever you're at, and they're willing to let you use your line of credit here and refi, that might be the best way to at least start, until you can develop some rapport. Because that's what I do. And a lot of our local bankers are not just going to say, hey, here's $1 million line of credit until you build some rapport with them.
Yes. Yeah. So, a line of credit, that's maybe another episode, but having a line of credit so you are a cash buyer.
Yes. Is separating investors now. It's parting the waters. You're either on one side or you're not.
Yes.
And it's tough for these guys.
Then you just go you use your line of credit, you go term it out, pay yourself back, and keep on going. It is, it's the BRRRR strategy, but they don't emphasize enough about in the buying how you buy. You buy with a line of credit or with cash.
They just say BRRRR, buy, or whatever.
Then you refinance it. So,
okay, next one: not hiring a property manager or not managing the manager. I often hear 10%'s a lot. I'm like, so are 1 a.m. phone calls about the clogged up toilet. And so are, what are the other examples of not, I couldn't imagine not having
everybody,
a property manager.
Everybody pays for property management. You either pay with your money or with your time.
So good.
So which do you prefer to pay with?
Oh, that's so good. Say that again. That's really good.
Everybody pays for property management.
Period.
It's you're either paying with your money or your time. Which do you pay with? Mm-hmm. And my experience is you as a business owner don't want to be doing the $10 an hour work. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, you want to be doing the $100 an hour, the $500, the $1,000 an hour work in collecting rent, leasing property, scheduling maintenance, paying invoices. Those are low dollar per hour work that you don't propel your business forward. They save you a nickel today, but they don't make you $1 tomorrow.
No.
And I think that's what investors are investing in. If you want to have a business that you self-manage, that's one thing. But being an investor in rental property, I think you want to strategic partner with a property manager who you're going to pay, and you're going to get what you pay for.
And it isn't one bit, like you said, hey, if you go to your own business, you're running, if you got 40 rentals, you got 40 businesses, brother. Whether you want to admit that or not, You got 100
You
rentals,
might be able to
you own
use
100
some of the
businesses.
similar systems in this business that
Yeah.
you use in the next door business,
fine.
but it is
They're
you're
separate.
right. They are all different.
Yeah, how could you imagine? And yes, it's not running, a fast-paced, Kinko's or whatever it may be. That's not running that, but it is its own business, and it has its own issues, and it has its own positives and negatives. And I just couldn't imagine really scaling. Now, if you're the guy that just wants to dabble in this and play around, and it's fun for you, sure, manage yourself, figure out how what that all entails as you go. But if you're a legit long-term business owner with rentals, I say start right away too. Some people are like, should I get 3 or 4 before I do it? Like, God, no. Start at the very beginning.
Worst advice I ever accepted was when I bought my first few properties. I was vetting the different property managers, and somebody who I looked up to and had a little more experience than me said, why don't you manage them yourself so you can learn the business? And I regret that.
How long did you do it?
Several years until we kind of got it into Crestcore and kind of came to that realization. But yes, I regret that. I regret that because it goes back to the conversation we just had, right? Yeah. Like you think, who's the best sports agent for SEC football coaches?
Jimmy Sexton.
Yeah. You think Nick Saban is telling Jimmy Sexton what to do, or is he expecting Jimmy Sexton to be his agent?
Jimmy is advising Nick Saban, and Nick is taking it.
That's what you want with a real estate agent, and that's what you want with a property manager. Mm-hmm. Nick Saban doesn't need to be out there negotiating his contract.
No.
What he needs to be doing?
Managing his business.
Managing in his business and getting his team to where
and we're not Alabama fans.
We are Nick Saban fans.
I'm a Nick Saban fan. I'm not an Alabama fan. Because
Nick Saban and others like him, hire great people to work with them.
Yeah. Bill Belichick. We talk.
Yes.
You and I talk about those two every day. Because in our lifetime, in our era, that's excellence, and that is where anyone should strive to be in their own business. Football's different, but I mean, your own business and the way that they run things is not. You and I. This is so great. We're moving off, but I don't care. This is running a business is very similar to running a university football team or a franchise or whatever it may be. You're only as good as the people in the building.
Yes.
And you're only going to be as good, investor. You're only going to be as good as your banking partner. You're only going to be as good as your source that comes in here. And you're only going to be as good as the market that you choose to go in.
And we've said it 100 times. And this is kind of to take the sports analogy, but move it into maybe the self-help, the Grant Cardones of the world with Jocko Willink. And that is his big thing is there is no bad team. There's only a bad coach or a bad leader. Yeah. And that's what there aren't bad property managers and bad deal sources. It's you making those decisions. You got to wake up as the investor and make the decision. I mean, you and I had a conversation the other day where you said, if we're sitting here in June and we're saying, oh man, here we are, same problem.
That's on us.
That's on us. And if you're an investor, you've got same thing.
We're giving you the playbook to this. We're telling you exactly what not to do based off of you have more experience in more houses, but going through based off experience from people that live here and have done this, we're telling you
and the people
what not
that
to
we've
do.
worked with. I mean, you and I have worked with hundreds of people, probably thousands, really, when you really think about the residents and others that. Just the experience we have.
Sure. To share this info, the negative part of it. I mean, I'm not afraid to do it.
So,
part 2 of the not hiring the right property manager is not managing the manager. We don't have to spend a ton of time on this, but
I think we're going to even talk about that next week.
We're going to talk about managing the manager next week in a lot of details, but you do have to get into doing exactly what it says. Managing the manager. You need to overlook things. I log on to my owner's portal every morning. I look at everything that's there, and I try to make sure that everything's falling in line because, you just need to be aware of daily activity that your manager is taking care of.
The cliches are, you can't set it and forget it. No. That's not this business. Mm-hmm. You've got to, Ronald Reagan, trust but verify. And I mean, there's just so much you have to be involved in. I love Gary Keller of Keller Williams. His books are The Millionaire Real Estate Agent is about the best book I've ever read. Mm-hmm. I mean, just as far as building a business, and he he talks in that book about, and even maybe it's in the Millionaire Real Estate Investor, which is gold. But he talks about there's working in the business and on the business. And only difference between working in and working on is that when you're in it, it's you doing it. And when it's on it, it's other people are doing it. But guess what? That's what passive means. Passive means other people are doing it. But your role is active. You are an active investor.
Yes.
You're an active passive investor. Passive just means somebody else is doing it. You're overseeing it. We'll get into that more.
Big time next week.
Big time next week with managing the manager. But you have a big role in managing the manager.
Absolutely. And it's super, super important. We're going to make a
Super
whole show
important.
of it next week. Next, not properly vetting contractors using the chuck in a truck type. And we've taken care of a lot of that.
Yes.
So when you come back up from number 5 here and you come back up to number 2 and choosing your property source, that's another advantage of going with someone like myself and our team. Again, we don't do a lot of self-promotion on here, but I mean, to separate myself and our brokerage is, these contractors work on my homes.
Yep.
Every one of them.
Yep.
And they both have done rehabs.
Yep.
And to me, if someone can't say, hey, I use this guy over here and he's done a great job for me, I think you're missing out. If an agent just calls you and says, hey, they just looked in the phone book and gave you 1, 2, 3 names and numbers, I mean, you can do that. You need to find someone that has used them, can verify for them. That's the only way, to me, an out-of-state investment. Now, can you come in here and vet them yourselves? Yeah, but I mean, who has the time to do that? And how accurate is your vetting going to be?
Man, most people learn on the job, OTJ, and you lose a lot vetting contractors that way.
Yep.
So you need to work with agents and property management companies who already have a stable full of vetted contractors who are licensed, contractors who are insured, contractors who are in this business for the long haul, not fly by night, and are focused on rental property. Or whatever. If they're fix and flip to retail, you need a contractor who's focused on that. If it's a long-term rental, you need a contractor who's focused on that. So property people oftentimes, and we're Bigger Pockets fans, and we're on there, and we'll see people trying to vet contractors. Any contractors who can help me? In that scenario, again, this goes back to paying with your time or money and partnering with the right people, because what contractor wants to do one job for one person out of state? What does a contractor want to do? They, like anybody who's running a business, wants recurring revenue, repeat customers, people they can depend on to pay them, people they know who they can get in their system and work.
Build their pipeline.
So the people who are going to come work for a one-off investor out of town is not who you want doing your deals. You can't vet the contractors. I don't believe you can vet. I mean, it's a very special person who can vet a contractor. The majority of people, the mistake they're going to make is trying to vet the contractors and vendors by themselves without resources here. This episode is what we have seen not work.
Oh, man.
Are there exceptions? Are there exceptional people? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for the majority of the folks, it does not work.
Doesn't work. And by the way, I'm not even telling you that because I referred you to these two guys that everything's going to go 100% great.
No.
Right? It's construction. But here's the difference. When I refer you to them, I know them and use them. I know how they react to a bad situation. They told you it was 20 grand. They went down and pulled down a wall, found this, found that. Now it's 23 grand, right? How well do they communicate that? How well do they tell you about that? Or do they just, at the very end, just, oh, by the way, I had to spend another $3 grand. It's trustworthy contractors, dependable and on-time contractors are what, to me, can help you make or break your business. And going with someone that your licensed property source has used many a times, to me, is the best way to go into a market and find a contractor.
Yes, and there's no doubt that working with someone who is referring business to them, you've got their attention and going to keep it. Again, finding somebody off the Angie's list. I mean, you're just rolling the dice. Those are the stories.
Yeah.
Of I gave my contractor all the money and they skipped. And I mean, do you hear that from people who are trying to vet these things on their own as opposed to going with referred to people? And even as property management companies, a lot of property management and us here, as you know, at Crestcore, we've had to develop our own sister company because to keep the attention, because every contractor out there, especially if you're using truck in a truck, because my experience with truck in a truck is you use truck in a truck and then you get a second truck in a truck and then you get a third truck in a truck and it becomes a cluster truck. Because you know what it's doing is people are running people because they're not. So that's why they're just running ragged. Yeah. And so what you ended up doing, what we had to do here is start our own sister company so we could have dedicated personnel that goes
licensed, bonded, insured,
goes to where they say they're going to be. They buy what they say they're going to buy. They do what they say they're going to do versus that. So
we're making a big deal, but it's hard to get that. We're making a big deal out of that's
a lot of why people get burned is trying to do with contractors, and that is not. They just don't. It is avoidable. And especially when you think about the only other thing is the service triangle of, you mentioned it, quality, speed, and price.
Can't have all three.
I want quality, speed, and I want to pay for it.
Yeah.
I want to pay for quality and I want to pay for speed. Guess what most people want?
The opposite.
Price. And guess what you get? Slow. And if you get fast and cheap, oh man, you got a real problem. You want quality. I mean, I think that's
we've done the contractor triangle here before.
Yeah, it's super important, man. It drives everything because it's like finishing a rehab. Like you want to do it right.
Speaking of, the next one on my list is not finishing the full rehab. Let me give you an example of what I did.
Okay.
When I first started here or first started investing in. Wish that I hadn't done it since. Bought a home on Battlefield in 38128.
Yep.
Great house.
Great street.
Wish I'd held on.
Great location.
Bought it for $40,000. They're worth about 120 now.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Bought it for $40,000. I got a rehab bid for $9,000 on it. That was more than because I wasn't.
That's 20% of the price.
I wasn't using bankers and I wasn't doing the right thing.
That's
I was
right.
using my own money. $9,000. I was like, yikes! I really wanted to get out of here with $5,000. So what I did was I took the little list and I knocked $3,000 off of it. So I went
cut some corners,
man. And I was like, okay, I'll get in here. The tenant will be fine. I'm going to leave off $3,000 worth of stuff. And what was it? The small stuff, right? The small that I was like, it'd be no big deal. What happened?
Devil's in the details, man.
Douglas, they called maybe
everything
every other week for 6 months. I thought I would never buy another rental property again. So not completing the full rehab. Now, can you get on the phone with your contractor and say, hey, what's the reason we're doing this?
Yeah.
And asking some challenging questions, no worries whatsoever.
No, people appreciate that.
But to go in and like I did stuff like, well, we don't need to replace the faucets here. They work, they're fine, but they leak. And guess what tenants don't want? They look at that as $1 every time that drops that they're paying on their utility bill, right? So they're going to call. And they did. Light fixtures and this and that and the other. I mean, like I was bombarded. You remember.
I remember.
Bombarded with maintenance calls. And and what did I do? I got upset with my contractor. I got upset with property management thinking it's everyone's fault.
Yeah, upset with the tenant.
I'm mad at everything. But I should have turned around and looked at the mirror and said, Bud, you cut the $3,000 off.
Yeah.
You cut off the faucets and this and that and the other that drew people out here. So there is a way to challenge a price or the details on a rehab bid. But if your contractors, you get into that conversation of, hey, this needs to be done and you really need to do this, I would listen. And if it's too much, if it's just, then it isn't a deal. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Then it's not a deal. And at the time I should have said, I'm not ready to spend that much money on a rehab. I either need to borrow it and add it or do something.
Or what if you had somebody like this episode telling you, Dean, go in there, do it right, spend the $9,000.
Yeah.
You would have a heck of a property.
I'd have
right now.
$75,000 in equity
And $1,000 rent house.
and $1,000
$1,200
rent
house.
And think
that
of
you
what
paid
that cost me.
$50,000.
$50,000 I would have been all in for. Like, there's not one investor in the country that wouldn't take that.
Oh man, it's a great location, great house.
Yeah,
love
there's
that.
not
Love
one.
that area.
So that awful mistake. I
Yes.
regret it every day. But these are the reasons why we share this stuff with you, so you can not make these same mistakes. So cutting the rehab, cutting corners was my.
And my thing was this: back to the service triangle of you want quality in this business. You want quality, and it is not just in your contractors. It is in your real estate agent.
Yes.
It is in your property management company.
Yep.
It's in your vendors. It's in whoever you're dealing with.
Yep.
Because you want. I'm not saying overpay for things.
No.
I'm saying get value and pay for what you get.
Cutting corners on a rehab, you're gonna pay. Just like
Yes.
you just said
Yeah,
a minute
you're gonna
ago.
pay.
What was the thing you said a second ago? You're
You're going to pay
for
with
it.
your time and money. With a rehab, you're going to probably pay with your money, either on the front end or, in your case,
on the back.
on the back end.
And
every
I
single
freaked out
month.
and sold it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the end result of that. People,
And you probably
I forgot
sold
to
it for
say that.
50 or
Oh,
40.
I got my money back, but that's it.
That's it. I mean, you could have had
Which is
lot
a monster
more.
loss.
A monster loss.
If you look back on it now, it was a monster loss. I mean, that's $75,000 loss that if I wanted to sell that house now, I would pocket. So yes, terrible mistake. Don't make it. If you can't, if the rehab's numbers don't work, guys, let's go ask
Just
for
move on to
price
the next
reduction.
deal.
If we
If you
don't
can't
get
get
it,
it, yes.
then let's get out of there.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense to not do it. So
Agree.
these are big mistakes. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No, I mean, there's all
Yeah.
kinds of things we can talk about.
Yeah.
Just, writing down goals, monitoring performance,
Yeah.
and losing sight of the big picture, getting caught up in the minutia.
Yeah.
And
a big
dig in different things that we can talk about, going too fast, unrealistic expectations.
Yeah.
But we're being mindful of the market cycle, especially when we're leveraging.
Yeah.
Just don't,
For sure.
as things get to a peak, don't 100% finance. You just be cautious.
Yeah.
So
As you go along. All right. So look, anything else?
no, managing the manager next week, man. I think that's
Managing the manager next week is going to be a good one. I'm
Yes.
excited about that. That will wrap up our 2021 Crestcore Real Estate Hour.
yeah. Man.
We're also going to rebrand the show.
I love it.
I think
Yes.
it's a good idea to go ahead and share that now. We're going to
Okay.
rebrand the show. We're going to take out the name Crestcore Realty. It's going to be offered by Crestcore.
Okay.
We're going to incorporate Memphis back into this.
Yeah, make it more searchable for people looking for
Yeah.
for historic info
Yeah.
and more
Yeah.
info on Memphis. Yes.
Yeah. So we're
because that's what
gonna-
we're here to do.
Yeah,
We're
same
promoting
bat
Memphis.
time and same bat channel.
Yes.
We're just going to change the name of it, but we'll make sure everybody's aware and send out all kinds of emails. But one more show next week.
Can't wait.
We're going to manage the manager. It'll be a great way to end the year. If you have any questions, guys, dean@crestcore.com. Then you can go to the Facebook page after this is over, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you check your podcast, and it'll be there. You good?
Can't wait, man. Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys next week. One more episode for the end of the year. We look forward to seeing you then.